What's up, everyone? I'm Josh Pinker, and I'm really excited to kick off the brand new year with a new episode of Let's Get Animated. In today's episode, we are going to be covering everything about Toon Boom Harmony's Deformers. In this video, I'm going to be working off of my brand new Wacom One Touch 13-inch display. Shout out to Wacom for sending me this so I can use it during my videos. Also, a big thank you to Wacom for sponsoring this video. I'm super excited to get started, so let's dive in. Okay, so we're going to be creating a brand new file, and as always, I love to use the touch features. So we got everything set up here, brand new file. What I want to do first is create a color card. So I'm going to move this to the side here. And then I'm going to lock that. And I want to create two very simple shapes, and I'm just going to do two rectangles. So I'm going to select my drawing node, I'm going to go in my rectangle, I'm going to make sure the size is nice and thick, make sure the color, I'm just going to go with black, and I'm just going to click and drag down. So that's good. I'm gonna make this a blue, so I'm just gonna click on blue, paint bucket, fill in the shape, and I'm gonna name this blue, and I want to do one more, so I'm gonna do Control R, and I'm going to name this one red, add and close. So I got my blue, I got my red, I'm going to connect this down. Same thing, going to go to my rectangle tool, go back to color, make sure it's a black, and I'm just going to click and drag out. And this one's going to be a red fill. And I want to make sure that I have some pegs attached. So I'm going to highlight both of these, and I'm going to do Command Shift P. So now I got a blue peg and a red peg already named and connected, and I have both here in my timeline. Just going to collapse that. I always love using the touch features on the Wacom One Touch. It's just really cool features and a great way to just have some fun and start off the project before using our handy dandy stylus pen to continue working. So there are two different types of deformers. There is a spline deformer, which goes directly straight through the object, and there's an envelope deformer, which goes around the edges of an object. For the blue one, we're going to do a spline deformer. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in right here. So first thing we want to do is select the drawing node of the object that we're using. So selecting the drawing for the blue rectangle. And then the next step, create new deformation chain. So I'm going to select this, and you'll see automatically it creates this folder here, and this is where all the information of the deformer that we're creating, it's going to be put into this folder, neatly organized. I am going to go here, rigging tool, So this is what we click to create the deformer. So I'm going to click this. And now what you want to do, it depends on, you know, kind of like the direction and stuff of how your character looks. What I'm going to do is from the bottom here, I'm going to click and I'm going to drag to right around the middle area and I'm going to let go. So that's half of the deformer created. So now I'm going to go from the top. So now from the opposite, I'm going to click and I'm going to drag down to about halfway to right there. And now it is created. Since this hammer and wrench tool is still created, I can go back and move around the deformer that I created. Maybe I want it here, I want it here. For the spline, you want it to, you know, always be at the edge of the top and the bottom and to just go straight through. And our handles, these are these guys, these little dots here. We want this to be also directly centered right in the middle. So everything going straight down, both edges, handles right in the middle. Once you're happy with the location that you put it, we can go back here and hit our transform tool. So now we exited out the deformation creation. If we go into deformation of blue here, I'm going to go into the group. We'll see we have one deformer, and these are the points, the curves, the offsets, and all that. So that's all the information of the deformation here. And now that we have it created, I can go here. It's a little hard because it's blue on blue, but I can click and drag out the handle, and now you can see the artwork being deformed. So instead of redrawing the shape, I can just easily manipulate the deformers to get the curve that I want, and using the handles to bend the artwork around to get the curve that I want. If for some reason you made all these changes and you're like, oh no, I want to go back to the default, you can just click on the deformation folder here, and you're going to click this button right here, reset current keyframe. So I'm just going to click that, and it'll just snap right back to the way it was. Now let's go down to our timeline here. So we have the blue here, we got a peg on it so we can animate. So I'm going to put F6. I'm going to create a keyframe right there. And I'm just going to go to, oh, the exposure isn't fully out, so I'm just going to hit F5 to extend the exposure. So basically the exposure, it was only on frame 1. So I'm extending the exposure to frame 9 with F5. Going to collapse that. And I'm going to put a keyframe here. So we have keyframe on number 1. I'm just going to turn off the red one. And on frame 9, I'm going to say I want this deformer to be like this. I want this deformer to be like this. And we get this kind of S curve going. We have the keyframe here recording this information of it like this keyframe like this. So now when I go and add in my motion tween, we will see the program automatically animating the deformer to move. So that's how you create a deformer and how you manipulate it and how you animate it. I really like spline deformers because they're just super simple and easy. You can pretty much get nice, noodle shape curves, nice C curves, and it's just really simple for animating like arms and just any simple shapes for that kind of cartoony, bendy feel. So now let's talk about the other deformer, which is envelope deformer. So I'm going to get rid of this tween, get rid of this keyframe, turn back my red. So we could see we still have the green line of the deformer showing. Let's say I don't want to see it anymore. I can just go here, show selected deformer. I can click that and it'll turn off. And then if I wanted to turn back on, I can just select and click it again and it'll turn on. And if I click off, select this one, show selected, it'll turn off. And then you don't always have to see it while you're working. So that was a spline deformer on the blue rectangle. We're going to do an envelope deformer on the red rectangle here. So the envelope goes all the way around. For this one, we're going to use the Toon Boom menus and settings to create it for us. So I'm going to select the red rectangle. I'm selecting the drawing node. I'm going to go to animation, envelope creator, create envelope. Now we're going to get this pop-up menu here. So all of this information you don't have to really worry about. The only thing you want to worry about is the number of points that you want for your envelope. Rule of thumb, less is more. The less points and deformers you have, the better control and the easier it's going to be to manipulate the deformation. If you have a lot of points, it's going to get tricky because there's just too many points that you have to move and it gets really tedious. For the envelope, I like to think about kind of like our edges that we have. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So I would suggest having minimum 4 deformers for the edges. But since we also have this really long sides here, I would say 1 on each side as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points. So we already have 6 listed here. If I can just go and just type in 4, I can type in 20, but we know we want 6, so I'm just gonna enter in 6 again. And then we're gonna click create envelope. So we can already see our envelope was created successfully. I'm gonna exit out of this, and we have the deformation folder created for our envelope. And I'm just gonna expand these windows. So we could see that we have it right at the edges here, we have it in the middle, and we have it at the edges at the top. So notice how these are kind of like lopsided, like one's higher than the other. So I really want to change that so that it's always going to be directly across from each other. So I'm just going to click the deformation. I'm going to go back to my rigging tool here. So now we're in the mode where I can adjust the deformers. So I'm just going to move this down a little there. I'm going to move this one a little higher. Whoops. And that looks better. That looks more aligned, more centered. Maybe get a little higher. Let's go there. Click this one. Yep, that looks good. Making sure that it's directly centered in the outline. Cool. So I'm happy with that. I'm gonna click my transform tool. So that's good. If I wanted to not see this anymore, I can just click the show selected deformers. So it's off, but I want to see the control that I get out of this. So I'm going to click it again, click it on. So now with this, I can zoom in and I can click and drag and bend out these deformers. So I'm adjusting the overall outline shape of the rectangle. And with the handles, I can bend this in, I can bend this out, I can also drag this down so the length of the curve changes. So this is helpful when you don't want to get that kind of noodle shape bend, but you want to just get a different bend on the outside of the overall shape. I can even bend this, get a more oval shape. I can do the opposite here, have it cave in. So, and then I'm gonna click off. So now we went from perfect rectangle to a shape like this. And again, with the spline deformer, it's just about getting nice bends, nice S curve, U curves. And with the envelope deformer, it's all about getting the changes on the outside of the object and growing the overall mass and changing the width of the shape. Again, if I want to reset, I can just click here, and we can also animate this, of course. So I'm going to go to my red, I'm going to hit keyframe. There's no exposure, I'm just going to hit F5 and F6 again. So now I got a keyframe on frame 1, keyframe on frame 9. I'm going to just do simple changes here. Get a nice cool shape like that. And I'm going to set my tween. And now we can see it automatically tweening and animating the deformers. So you're probably thinking back to the drawing video that I did, one of the first couple videos, where when you draw a shape, you can just go in, select the line, and you can just bevel out the line. And you're probably thinking, well, if I can just drag this out, why do I need a deformer? So that's a great question. So you can't animate this tool. You can't animate this action. So this is affecting the overall drawing of the object. So now you could see like the deformer is kind of like changing and getting all messed up because now it's based off of that movement. So yeah, so whenever you get the subselection and you're going to the line of the drawing, you're permanently changing that shape. So now this is the permanent look of the shape. And then when you do the deformers, it's going to go off of this. So for deformers, this is your original final design. The deformer allows you to now manipulate off of this final design, and the subselection is just to make a final change on the object, and then it'll look like this forever. But then you can't animate just based on that. You need the deformer to be able to animate and make these changes. And also having the pegs. The pegs records the animation. The deformation is the changes happening for the animation. And then this is your final rectangle and how it looks. Hopefully that makes sense. So that's kind of the differences of the tools and what they're used for. So now you're probably thinking, well, what if I kind of want to do like a mix of both? What's actually nice is you can choose to have both deformers. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So let me just get rid of all this. Okay, so we have I'm going to work off the red here. So we have the red, and the red is our envelope deformer here. Let's say you want the option to also have a spline deformer and you want to just like switch between the two. because you don't know which one you're going to need for animation or which is going to work best for your character or whatever you're animating. Okay, so what we're going to do is I am selecting my red rectangle. I'm going to go to drawing substitution. So we only have one version of this rectangle. What I'm going to do is I am going to, right here, I'm going to go here, duplicate drawing. So I'm going to duplicate it. And now I have two versions of my drawing substitution. I'm going to select version 2. And then I'm going to go here, create new deformation chain. So I want to create a new one. I'm going to select that. And I'm going to go to my rigging tool. I'm going to zoom in here and I'm going to click, and I'm creating my spline deformer. Clicking from the bottom, dragging up. Boom. Okay. And now I'm going to go here. I'm going to edit that a little bit. I want to bring this more to the middle. Bring this more to the middle. Okay. So now I have my spline deformer. So that's there. So now I can get these nice U-shape, noodle-shaped curves. I'm going to reset that. Let's say I don't want to use this spline deformer and I want to go back to the envelope. I'm just going to go here and I'm going to select our first drawing substitution. And now we're back to the envelope. So that's how you easily add two different deformers on the same shape, and you can just switch back and forth on what you would like to do. However, the one thing you can't do is you can't have, like, from this shape, I'm going to show you. This is going to be really messy. I'm going to, like, move this out. I'm going to do, like, all of this. You can't animate from one deformer to a different deformer. So I'm going to have that, and then I'm going to do another keyframe. Get rid of this tween. I'm going to reset. Let me go to node view. I'm going to reset this. And on here, I'm going to change to our spline. And I'm going to bend this out like this. So we have this deformer like this deformer like this. I'm going to tween. And you can see it's just popping. It's just like tweening to get close and then just popping to this new deformer. So you can't go from an envelope animating into a spline. It has to be the same deformer on both ends of the keyframes. So that doesn't work. But you still have the option to switch around on what would work best for you. With the envelope deformer, so let's say I want to move this one. So I'm clicking and dragging. And then I want to move this one, clicking and dragging. You can select one, and then I'm going to hold down Shift and select the other one. Now I can click off of one, and I have both of them selected, so they will move together. And same thing down here. So we have it moving, and because we have these middle points, which we're not affecting, the rotation is happening off of these middle points. So everything is rotating, but these points are keeping the shape locked to this position. So everything up top is going to move and rotate, but it's going to stay locked right here. I can still go back here. I can do Shift and click. Now when I move, now the same thing is happening, but all the way from the bottom. It's staying locked into the bottom and this whole shape at the top. is all moving together and staying consistent. Additionally, so remember how I said I'm clicking, and when I rotate, it stays locked at right here at the bottom. Well, what we can do is we can select this button, Show Manipulator. So because I'm going to start from, so I have that turned on, I'm going to select one point. As soon as you select multiple points, so I'm going to shift select a second point, we get this bounding box pop up. So this bounding box lets us manipulate and set a new pivot point based on where we're moving things. So I'm going to get, so right now we could see if we move this around, it's kind of rotating right here. I'm going to move this pivot point right about here. Now we'll see it kind of moves from that point. And let's go even shorter. Let's go like right here. It's going to like pivot from right there. Same thing if we continue to move down. So we have this selected, and I'm going to move it right here. You can see that the pivot point is more in the middle, and if I bring it all the way down here, if I bring it all the way down here and then click to rotate, it's rotating from that point. I'm going to bring it up higher. And now it's bending right from here, which is where the pivot point is. So that's just another way to get more control over, and this isn't a permanent change to the deformer. This is just a temporary change to just help you get that easy bend that you're looking for. So now I can go up here and I can rotate a little bit more. I can hit shift. I can click off. Just hit the shift here, go here, and I can start to do this. So it's like, even though this is an envelope deformer, I can use the show manipulator to kind of get an easy bend that we would get on the spline here. So I can just keep things consistent. But you could see how it's like, okay, I easily just want to get this bend. It's 1, 2, 3. But for something like this, when you got multiple points, it's like moving this, kind of getting everything to stay the same consistency as our spline would get us. But we can easily click multiple points so that everything stays uniformed. Just going to zoom in here, click this. And now still getting that overall shape. So yeah, so that's pretty much, I'm just going to reset everything. So that is pretty much the basics of deformers when it comes to envelope and using a spline deformer. Understanding how to have two different deformers on the same object, and overall just understanding the differences between the spline and the envelope and how to simply create them. Let's take it one step further and get a little bit more advanced in how we use our deformers. What's up, everyone? Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Please like this video, and we're going to take a quick break. And if you watched the other videos before, you know what's coming up next. So I'm starting off with a blank screen and I want to create a stick figure. We're gonna go really simple of just creating a stick figure character. So I'm going to create a drawing and I'm just gonna create all my drawings all at once. So this is gonna be the head. I'm gonna add that. This is going to be the torso. This is going to be the left arm. This is going to be the right arm. This is going to be the left leg. Add. So I'm just creating all the drawing nodes that I know I'm going to need. And last but not least, the right leg. Add and close. So we can see that everything was added right here. So we got the right leg, the left leg, the right arm. Everything was kind of created on top of each other just automatically. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these tools up here. If you don't see these, just in the gray area, you can just right click and it's just node view. So just having this turned on. So it's the node view tab, but you want to right click and it'll be off. So I'm just going to right click node view and then this will turn up. I'm going to highlight everything and I'm going to select this, align nodes horizontally. I'm going to select that and now we'll see everything is now aligned easily for my viewing. And now I can just click this and drag this up. So instead of going one by one, dragging out, instead of doing this, going like, okay, this one over here, and then this one over here, and then this one, just to eliminate that and work smarter, not harder. I'm selecting everything, align nodes horizontally, and now everything is nicely neat for me to start working. Okay, so let's start off here. I'm going to get my composite. I'm just going to move everything underneath of my objects here, and I'm going to connect the head, right leg. So nothing has been drawn out. So I'm just selecting everything, adding everything. Cool. So my head, I'm going to go here. I'm going to go ellipse tool. I'm going to go to color. I'm going to make this green. That should be a good size. So I'm just going to click. I want it to be a little bit thicker. There we go. So boom, circle for the head. I want to go to my torso and get the line tool. So this is just a simple stick character. And I got my torso here. My right arm is going to be the... Cool. So we created a stick figure. Nothing advanced here. Everything pretty simple, straightforward. Now I want to create pegs for all these. So I'm just going to highlight everything. I'm going to do Shift Command P. So now I got pegs for everything. And they're all connected and all named. I want to make sure my pegs, the pivot points are in the right spot. So I'm going to go to rotation tool. And I'm just going to align these. So this is my left leg. I want to keep it towards the hip. Left arm. I want it to rotate at the shoulder. My torso, I want this to rotate at the hips also. I want this to rotate at the shoulder. Right leg at the hips. And my head, I want this to rotate at the neck. Gonna hit my transform tool again. So we got that. So now we have the head rotating. We have, let me just go to tool properties. We want to make sure that whenever we're working with pegs, we have this turned on, peg selection mode. So every time I select something, I'm always selecting the peg and not the drawing layer. So got this. So now the arm is rotating properly. This arm's rotating properly. And torso rotates. Legs rotating from the hips. So that's all right. That's looking good. Okay, now let's do some really basic rigging here. I'm just gonna realign some of this. So I want like the upper body to all be connected. So I'm just gonna create a new peg here, and I'm gonna name this like upper body master. So something like I want like the head and the right arm and the torso and the left arm. I want that to all be connected together. And then I'm going to change that down at the hips here. So now when I select that, everything kind of rotates from the hips. So that's good. And I'm just going to make one more peg. I'm going to make this like stick figure master. And then I'm just going to connect that to the upper body and to the left leg and to the right leg. And then I'm gonna make this pivot point be like right around down here. So now when I select this, everything kind of comes together. If I move down to here, we've got the upper body. Next step is creating our deformers. So for this, since it's a very simple, shape, it's just lines, I'm just gonna go with the spline deformer. If it was, thickness, if everything was rectangles and stuff like that, I would do envelope. Since it's just straight lines, I'm going with just spline deformer straight through. So let's do something. I'm just gonna focus on the upper body. So the left arm, here's the left arm. Create new deformation chain. Selecting, and I'm gonna go from the neck area. I'm gonna click and drag to the middle, let go. And now to continue, I'm gonna go from like the hand, wrist area. I'm gonna click, drag back, and I'm gonna let go. So that's created. I'm gonna go to the torso, create new deformation chain, and I'm gonna go from the hip area. I'm gonna drag up, and from the neck area, drag down. So that's done. I'm just clicking off so we don't see the others, and the right arm. Clicking the right arm, create new deformation chain, selecting my rigging tool, and going from the neck area down to here. So that's good. All right, so that's all taken care of. So now we can see we have our arm here. If I turn it on, so this now bends nicely. So now I can get a, hey, how's it going? Get a nice little bend there. And same thing here on the torso. Let's say he was bending down or he was going to do some movement. If I bend down, that's going to work nicely for his body and torso for getting nice, easy bends and curves of the body. The biggest thing to notice is that when I move this deformer, the arms didn't move, the head didn't move, even though by the peg to move together, it still doesn't keep things connected if I move the deformer. I could even do something like this. Let me just clean this up a little bit. Even if I did the head, I'm going to connect the head directly to the torso. And I'm going to realign this. So I connected the head to the torso. So let's say torso, go one up to the head here. Even if I was to rotate these together, it's connected, but if I move my deformer, the head's still not following. So I'm going to show you how to move a deformer and things stay connected at the same time while you're moving it. So let me just undo a bunch of times. Okay, so what we want to do first is we want to make sure everything is set up properly here. So what I want to do is just rearrange these so everything kind of makes sense. So I got the upper body, got the head, torso, left arm, right arm, and then the two legs. So that's great. Okay. So I'm going to go to the node library and I'm going to look for kinematic output. So I'm going to click, drag this onto the screen. So we have the torso here. So I want to be able to bend the torso and have the head follow the deformer and the arms to follow that deformer. So what I'm going to do is the information of the deformation for the torso, I'm going to drag this and connect it to the kinematic output. Now, the kinematic output, you want to connect this to every single body part that you want to be affected by that deformer. So that would be the head. I'm going to select, connect that. That would be the left arm, and I'm connecting it to the top of the peg, and that would be the right arm. So now that that's set up, I'm going to click on my torso. I'm going to click on the deformer here. I can select, so this is the deformer for the right arm, left arm. So I'm going to select just the top deformer for the torso here. And now when I click and bend, we could see the head and the arms follow with the torso and with the deformation. So now any types of bends that I make, it rotates with the deformer. And then once you get something that you like, you can then just click and do regular rotations on the body parts individually. I'm just going to bring this down. So now instead of bending the torso and then having to drag everything individually to that point, you can just easily manipulate that deformer and everything will follow with it. So now let's see this kind of in action here. I'm going to reset the deformer, so I'm going to click there, reset that. Since I did rotations on the arms and stuff, if you just click the body part, if the hotkey is Shift R, I'm going to hit Shift R, that resets the position and size of the drawing of the peg of that body shape. So if I did any like if I did anything like this, like I skewed it and I made it like super, super big, and it's like I just want to go back to how it was regular, I just select it, Shift R, snaps it right back. So let's see on our timeline. So I'm going to create a keyframe. I'm going to go frame 9. I'm going to extend the exposure for everything, create another keyframe, turn on my deformers, and I'm going to click into here, get the deformer for my torso, and I'm going to rotate this down over here, get a nice bend, and I'm going to, what else can we do? I'm going to click and rotate this out. Maybe this also bends, so that gets a nice bend. This is going to get a bend, and rotate this out. And then I'm going to tilt the head up here and just make sure everything is nicely connecting to the point here. Let's move this up a little bit. There we go. So now we can see we got these nice bends going on. And now, here's frame 1, frame 9, and now I'm gonna hit my set motion tween. And now we can see everything easily bending, morphing, and rotating to our position. And you'll notice too, you know you're doing a good job when nothing's like doing 360 turns and everything's like skewing and going crazy. You always want to make sure that when you're posing the character in the next keyframe, that you're rotating things properly, bending things properly, so that the program easily understands, okay, you're just going from here to here. If I was to do something like this, but then I was like flipping this arm over here, flipping this arm over here, and flipping this head upside down and moving it, you're going to notice that because you're flipping arms, flipping things horizontally, vertical, and making things all wacky, now when you go to tween, everything is just breaking and trying to, you still end up with the same kind of pose, but Toon Boom is looking at the coordinates and all the back end information. And since you did a really bad job, since you made all the movements a little bit more complicated, Toon Boom doesn't really know how to get to that point, so it just does its best to automate it. So this is why it's really important whenever you're rotating things, bending the deformers, make sure that it makes sense how it's going from position A to position B, so you don't have to deal with all this breakage. So I'm just going to undo all that. So we want to make sure we're getting this, because this arm here, all I did was rotate it at the shoulder, bent out the deformers up and down, so it's very easy movement for the program to understand. So that's just taking the understanding of deformers and just getting a little bit more advanced with it. So now we know how to easily, this is very, very simple rigging of a stick character, but also using our kinematic output. So now when we move our deformer specifically from the torso here, everything will move with it. And you can do the same thing with just like an arm and a hand. You could do the same thing where when you bend the arm, the hand will follow with it. Same kind of principle. So that's it. I really hope this was helpful and you have a better understanding of what deformers are used for, how to create it, how to set it up, and just have fun and see what you can create and how deformers can really save you time from having to redraw things or even, drawing in betweens of animation. You can easily get those in betweens of your character and get to the shape that you want easily without having to redraw. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next episode.